Jersey Sports Report, the venerable Mike Frankel of SNJ Today. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, guys. How are you this morning?
Pretty good, man. I'm fired up. High school football season's right around the corner. You're making me look bad, though. You're rocking out these previews like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah, I like to get a head start on those bad boys. Yeah, practice started, I think, officially, back on August 10th, and certainly been making the rounds for SNJ Today. I mean, a lot of great storylines going into the season, as I'm sure you guys have been talking about, but the shift to the West Jersey Football League for everybody, so everyone's schedule will be a little bit different. I think people are excited for some of these crossover games. You got a couple teams playing next weekend in week 0. St. Augustine have a good test against Malvern Prep, and then, St. Joe going on Saturday against Allentown. So, and then everyone else gets rolling the following week. So you're right, Sully. Football right around the corner here.
Yeah, I was thinking the other day, man, I better start getting out of some of these training camps. People start forgetting about me. It'll be all SNJ Today.
No, there's plenty of time. There's a couple weeks to go for most of these teams. And the good stuff is now. I mean, double sessions. A lot of times coaches, kids aren't exactly fired up to talk to you. But now that they can smell the season, I think everyone's a little more excited.
What have you seen so far in your rounds? Anybody really impressing you? And, what kind of vibe are you getting from some of these teams?
Well, I think some of the names that you guys have probably been talking about, I mean, Marquise Bell, I think, is head and shoulders, the best athlete in South Jersey. Maybe not head and shoulders. I mean, Bo Melton from Cedar Creek is right there, too. But you talk about Bell from Bridgeton, Bo Melton from Cedar Creek, two of the most dynamic guys really in the state. Obviously, Melton committed to Rutgers. Bell really has a number of big offers he's choosing between. Certainly Clemson is in the mix there, and I know that school is high on his list. And then you go sort of outside of those guys. I think Malachi Winters from Hamilton is poised for a big season. He had sort of that breakout year last year as a junior, and I think people are going to look for big things for him. Hamilton has a tough schedule, though, in that West Jersey. I believe it's the American Conference with games against the likes of Cherokee, Washington Township, some of those teams. Elsewhere, you look at a guy like Kendall Elliott from Oakcrest, and, the new coach there, obviously, in Anderson, and what can Elliott do to sort of ease the transition? He's a long-time starter there and now a senior. You go down the list to a team like a Holy Spirit, who's in the United Division now in the West Jersey, and maybe the team to beat there, Dante Daniel, one of the big names for them. So, yeah, then you're going to see some of the names that we've talked about over the years and some new names sort of step into the spotlight this season.
Mike, how are you getting all this stuff done, man? You got two youngsters at home, and, man, you're all over the place.
Double sessions, man, 2 days. That's what we try to do. Now, a lot of these teams like to practice early in the morning, so you pop out and you check in with some of these teams in the morning, and then you pop in the evening. A lot of teams go at night as well, so it's all good. It's a lot of exciting stuff for SNJ Today, though, Sully. I got to tell you, I know some people don't, but SNJ Today News being simulcast on the old NBC 40 channel these days. So for the listeners in Atlanta, Calumet, Cumberland County, you can find us nightly on Channel 4. And then Pete Thompson and I are going to do the high school football show again Saturday nights at 7 this year. So, again, Channel 4 will be a half-hour show. Also named The Locker Room, not to step on Billy's toes, but with The Locker Room of TV, he's certainly rocking and rolling with The Locker Room of radio. So people looking for that great high school football coverage, you can find it Saturday nights, Channel 4.
Mike, take us through that process. It's a really interesting process. You guys go out to about 2 or 3 different high school football games on a Friday night, and then you kind of got to get all those highlights put together and for the show the following day. It makes for quite an interesting Friday night for you guys.
Yeah, it certainly does. And another wrinkle this year, too, I should mention, is that we're also going to be covering a game of the week on Friday nights on that same channel. So I know everyone's in the West Jersey Football League now, but this will be sort of those traditional Cape Atlantic League matchups. I think week 1 we're going to have Millville against DHT. And certainly we'll get more teams in the mix down the line. But, yeah, so we're able to pluck some highlights from that game. And then Pete and I just sort of race around with a couple cameras. And to be honest with you, Sully, the staggered start times help us out a lot this year. I know, it's good for some media outlets, not so good for others. I know you guys will have a different challenge there trying to cover games on the radio side. But for us on the TV side, it's great. You can hit a couple games at 6 o'clock and then move on to a couple games at 7. So you try to be everywhere. Certainly you can't, but you want to get as many great highlights for these viewers as possible, and that's certainly, we hustle to do that every week.
How long is the editing process for that? When you get back to the station and you have, say you went to 3 games and you've taken, I don't know, maybe an hour's worth of film, how do you cut all that down into maybe a 20-second, 30-second highlight? Yeah,
a lot of practice and just knowing what you're looking for out there. Obviously touchdowns and interceptions and safeties, things of that nature, big running plays, big passing plays. So that's what you're looking for. And you just kind of mark it in your head. You can also kind of mark it in the cameras we use when you get back a little bit faster. Because you're right. I mean, we're sifting through so many highlights, and now that we do our show on Saturdays, you throw some of those Saturday games in the mix. And, yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's a scramble that Pete and I have been used to, obviously, from our days over at NBC 40 doing the Friday Night Blitz, and sort of carried over bigger and better right now with our half-hour show on SNJ Today.
How cool is that to get that thing sort of rekindled with Pete Thompson? I know you guys had a lot of fun with that at NBC 40, and a lot of people were kind of disappointed when that went away, and here you are at SNJ Today bringing it right back, and I'm sure a lot of people are looking for that show, and they love the way you guys deliver the highlights, and obviously it must be fun with Pete Thompson bringing his own flair to the highlight show.
Yeah, Pete's a fan. I mean, anyone that's bumped into him on the sideline can certainly tell you that, and he's got a job to do out there, but he's certainly really invested in the community too, and he's going to talk to players, coaches, and fans, and I think that's what it's all about, Sully. I mean, you're not just sort of showing up to these games and keeping your head down. I mean, you're talking to people on the sidelines. You're sort of obviously you're trying to build the brand of SNJ Today and the show, but you're also sort of invested in, and you've known these people a long time. It's a lot of the same coaches. It's not the same kids, obviously, but maybe younger brothers or cousins, and people recognize us from being on TV and watching our football coverage over the years, and it's nice to see sort of a generational thing as kids go through the system and graduate, and new crop comes in, and like I said, maybe that younger brother or that cousin, and hey, we recognize you guys. But no, it's great, and Pete, getting to work with him on the weekends, we have a lot of fun. We spend about 36 straight hours together, minus a few hours for sleep in the middle. So I'm not gonna lie to you, things get a little crazy at some points, but no, it's all good. We do a lot of fun there.
We're talking with Mike Frankel of SNJ Today. Mike, it's interesting you mentioned that, because I'm starting to see that now that Glory Days is going into its fourth school year. So a lot of these kids that are seniors, they were freshmen when we first started doing what we're doing. And it is kind of neat. You get to know these kids, and you show up to a game. Hey, Sully, what's up, man? How's it going? So they get to know who you are and what you're all about. And, they see a guy like Kevin Minnick or Mike McGarry at a game. Hey, man, the press is here, the Courier Post is here. So it's neat to see them get excited about the media coverage they're getting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've talked about this before, but the media coverage at the high school, local and local college level in South Jersey, I would put it up there with really any coverage, in the country. I mean, you're talking about some of these athletes, because of where they are, they get a lot of great coverage from a lot of great media outlets, and you just mentioned a handful of them. But yeah, it's great to be able to highlight these kids, and not just the highlights, not just the big plays on the field. Getting a chance to sort of talk to them and feature what they're doing off the field, or sort of the story behind the success. And I think you go across the board and you talk to some of those same writers, and they would tell you the same thing. I mean, it's about more than the box score. It's about, what makes these players tick, what makes these coaches tick, and sort of how sports bring the communities together.
Mike, how comfortable are you now with SNJ Today, and are you going to be doing anything new this fall? You guys have worked real hard to get that thing up and running off the ground, and you're sort of still in the infancy stages of it, but it's really coming along well. How do you feel like that station has progressed in terms of how maybe where you thought you would be at this point?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like some days we're trying to run 100 miles an hour, and sometimes we can't get up to that speed. But yeah, everyone's really working hard, Sully, and like I mentioned, the more sort of channels, the more outlets we're on right now, the more eyeballs, obviously, they can get a chance to see what we're doing. So it's great. I mean, people in your listening area, like I said, Channel 4 these days on weeknights. But in terms of the high school football stuff, I mean, yeah, we're rocking and rolling, and in some ways we're doing things, bigger and better than they were ever really done at NBC 40. With this live coverage now on Friday nights, we're going to do this game of the week, obviously starting week 1 with Millville versus EHT, and then the Saturday night show. So it is a lot of work, but it's also a lot of fun. And yeah, I'm proud how far the station has come. Hopefully more people are checking us out. I know a lot of people sort of get turned on to us online, whether it's Facebook or the website SNJtoday.com, which is great too. I mean, in this day and age, that's how a lot of people gather their news, but hopefully some people find us on there, and then some other people can find us on the TV.
Mike, what's your most favorite part of what you do? Is it the live Friday night stuff, or is it maybe doing a video feature that you spend all week on? What really gets you going as far as the type of coverage you do?
Well, behind the scenes, I mean, just talking to these players and these coaches, and it may not even be stuff that makes the air, but, stuff when the camera's off, and just sort of catching up and, asking them how things are going in their life, whether it's, talking to these coaches about their kids or, talking to the players about, how their summer's gone or, where they're looking at school, stuff like that. So that's a lot of fun for me. Obviously, the stuff on the air is a lot of fun, too. There's nothing like that rush of when the show hits and you're pretty much live. I mean, you got to go. There's no mistakes, and if you make them, you just got to keep going. So that rush, even after 8-9 years I've been in this local TV business, that rush doesn't go away. So that's always a lot of fun. And I'll tell you, man, high school football season is my favorite. Obviously, we're going to cover a lot of other sports on SNJ Today as those seasons start in terms of soccer and field hockey and tennis and cross country. But obviously, the sport that pushes the needle is high school football, so we do a lot of our preview coverage there. And, yeah, nothing like Friday nights getting out there on the sidelines with that camera.
Good stuff, Mike. Appreciate you stopping by for a few minutes. We'll check in with you throughout the season. Thanks, buddy.
All right, guys. Look forward to a great year.
All right, man. Have a good weekend.
You too.
That was Mike Frankel of SNJ Today.